It's now 9:02 according to my watch. I would like to call to order the June 7th, 2023 Technical Advisory Committee meeting. Staff, could you please do the roll call?
At this time, I am only asking those TAC members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. I want to remind you to please unmute your microphones by pushing the button on the base prior to responding. Alternates, please also state your name if you are attending on behalf of a TAC representative. Jim Bell. Naresh, and can you please help me with your last name?
Machavarpu here.
Thank you. Gary Dunmeyer,
Here.
Jason Kaufman,
Here.
Denise Malone,
Here.
Jamie Brown, Terrence Bailey,
Here.
John Paul O'Connor,
Here.
Alex Hansen,
Here.
Jessica Keller,
Here.
Kenny Wilson,
Here.
Gary Sipek.
Here, Andrew Gimbo on behalf of Gary.
Thank you. Brian Davis,
Present.
Yash Nagal, Aaron Hoffman,
Present.
Joyce Kai, I believe, is attending virtually. Lorraine Cargill,
Vicky Katanis for Lorraine Cargill.
Thomas Hernandez.
CJ Lan on behalf.
Thank you. Roberto Travieso,
Here.
Kim Delaney,
Tom Lanahan for Kim Delaney.
Kim Glass Castro, Christopher Marsh, I believe, is attending virtually. Jonathan Reinsfold, I think, is also virtual. John Crane,
Christine Francisco on behalf of John Crane.
thank you. Natalie Crowley
Here.
and Modesem Al Turk.
Here.
And I'd also like to note for the record that Jamie Brown joined the meeting. We do have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Staff, are there any other modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the following members are requesting TAC permission to participate remotely. Jim Bell, due to ongoing medical issues that prevent in-person attendance. Joyce Kai, due to ongoing staffing shortages at the school district of Palm Beach County. Christopher Marsh, due to a scheduling conflict. And Jonathan Reinsfold, due to a scheduling conflict as well.
Very good. TAC members, are there any objections to allowing these TAC members participate remotely? Seeing none, they are approved to participate remotely, and Melissa, please note their attendance in the minutes.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
We move on to item 1C. Now we are asking for if there are any changes to the minutes. Minutes of May 3rd meeting. All right, if there is none, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion, and I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposition, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Going on to item 1D, general public comments and public comments on the agenda items. And we need to provide instructions to the public, and comments are included in the agenda. Staff, have any general comments been posted?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item 1E, comments from the chair and member comments. I would like to welcome Jessica Keller, representative from West Palm Beach. Jessica, do you want to tell us a little bit about your background?
Thank you. Caught me off guard. I didn't know I had to give my my biography. My name is Jessica Keller. I have 24 years of experience in the public and private sector. I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland, where I did work for the first 13 years of my career, and I've spent the last 11 years in South Florida. In South Florida, I worked for the city of Coral Gables for almost 10 years. I worked in the private sector here, working with municipal government as my primary focus. And thank you for having me.
Great. We are excited about having you as member of our team. Thank you. At this time, I want to invite any TAC member if they have any comments on items not already on the agenda. For members participating remotely, please utilize the raise hand feature in the Zoom platform, and then remember to unmute yourselves once you are recognized. Any comments from TAC members? Thank you. Moving on. Okay, yeah, right. TAC liaison report. Nathan, please.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to be back with you this month. We'll get the report pulled up. First item on our report this month is National Dump Pump Day. We want to encourage everybody to try transit, take photos, and we'd like to share those on National Dump the Pump Day. So encourage everybody to take opportunity to go out and try out transit in Palm Beach County and then share those photos with us so we can promote those on social media. Palm Beach TPA is also preparing to complete 4 walk audits this month. They'll be based around schools, and then at the end of the month, we'll be doing a walk audit of the DDI in Boca. So details about that are at palmbeachtpa.org/audits if you're interested in learning about that or registering to join us. Next up is the bicycle friendly designations. I just want to provide a little detail about that for everybody for the upcoming opportunities to apply for those designations. Bike friend business application is due on June 15th, and the community applications are due on August 30th. So we are a bicycle friendly business at TPA, so it's a great opportunity to show off your support of bicycling and be recognized for your commitment to being a bike friendly community or business. The TPA Safety Pledge is still available for you to participate. If you want to take advantage of that, please go to palmbeachtpa.org/Vision Zero. We're highlighting the USDOT Grant Navigator. One highlight that I want to emphasize for everybody, anybody who may be submitting on upcoming grants, DOT has been they've emphasized a lot that if you're going to submit, make sure you submit on time. They will not accept late submissions. So make sure you have access to your portals and are able to submit by the deadline. So wanted to pass along that message and make sure everybody is prepared to submit early. We do have 2 upcoming deadlines, the Safe Streets for All and the Protect grants that will be coming up over the next 2 months. So if you are preparing to submit, make sure you're ready to go and try to submit early is the message that they've been pushing out a lot as they talk about these upcoming grant opportunities. 2 other items that I want to highlight for you. The TPA Transit Survey is a new survey that we have just put out. It's open through the end of the month. palmbeachtpa.org/transit survey. We'd encourage everybody who's trying transit with National Dump Pump Day or anybody who's a member of the public to share their perceptions. We recently completed another survey, our Bike Month survey last month. And so we have a handful of highlights to share with you. So on the next slide. So that survey was completed at the end of last month. We had 195 responses come in. A lot of the typical responses that you would expect. Most folks say that perception of safety in Palm Beach County was one of the biggest challenges that they had, especially with vehicular traffic, drivers, and feeling of discomfort. 55% of the respondents said they'd prefer to be in a separated facility on the road, so a separated bike lane, a side path. So we saw some very meaningful input from that. This was a survey that was conducted bilingual, and we received 2 Spanish responses. So we would hope to see some more bilingual feedback on that, on our transit survey. Very excited to see these results, and we'll start to digest those as we look into how that might inform the LRTP. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff, are there any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. TAC members, any comments on or questions?
Yeah,
Gary?
if you don't mind, sorry, on that transit survey, did it mention age? What were the age ranges for the people riding?
The transit survey is ongoing right now, and we just published it within the last week.
Yes, we just published the transit survey this morning. Were you asking about the ages for the bike survey respondents? So I believe the majority were 55 plus. But there was a pretty good variety in other age groups. I believe it started at under 18 and then kind of went in like 10-year increments. But 55 plus was the majority.
All right, Tom?
Thank you. The answer here, 55% prefer to ride on the road in a separated bicycle lane. What were the choices that they were choosing between?
Sure. So also for the record, Melissa Murray, TP Public Relations Director. The choices had a text description as well as a photo. I believe the choices were on the road mixed with traffic, on the road in a designated bicycle lane, buffered bicycle lane, separated bicycle lane, sidewalk, shared use path, and not at all. So the majority said something physically separated.
But on the road versus a path.
Yes.
Interesting. Thank you.
Right, Roberto?
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the bike survey, just had a question as to, you mentioned, Nate mentioned that we have published it in English and Spanish. Has consideration been made to doing it in Creole, Haitian Creole? If not, I would suggest, that you consider that in future surveying.
Yeah, I think, and you can probably speak to this for LRTP purposes, but we wanted to test it out English and Spanish just to see the responses that we got. We do have Spanish speaking staff, so we were able to easily translate that in-house. But Creole is definitely something that we're considering in the future, especially for LRTP outreach purposes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Natalie?
I also have a question on the bike survey, and it sounds like Nathan said that you're still going through the data, but just some of the responses are a little surprising. The 65% ridership, once a week, and some other indicators there. So I would be curious to know the methodology. What was the sample? How did you approach? How did you even approach the sample itself? What was the ultimate sample? And you don't need to answer all of that now, but it seems that there are some questions from the group. So it might be interesting for further discussion at a later time to find out what exactly went into some of this, because some of the responses here are pretty surprising.
Yeah, I'll just say that this is, it's a survey that was published by a TPA. A lot of the results from a long-term planning perspective, I'd consider to be anecdotal. We are going to have a statistically significant survey as part of the LRTPF effort. So we'll get some more detailed results that are.
So this is more of a casual anecdotal survey, but
Exactly.
the more statistically significant study will be coming out through the long range plan, right?
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
And I can also share that the survey was distributed in our newsletter, on our social media. And then we did have at least one governing board member who distributed that in her newsletter. So we did see a lot of responses from her area, I think probably because of that. But that was mainly where the survey was shared.
Yeah, there's an inherent issue with surveys that it's almost always they are kind of biased because there are certain interest groups that would probably participate in those surveys. Others are not captured. And that makes me wonder when I see that about 55% of the surveyed people say that they prefer to ride on the road. Sorry, yeah, Gary?
When you say statistically significant, how big will that sample size be?
I need a reminder from the consultant. I think it was somewhere between 450 and 550 responses that need to be representative of population throughout the county. So, both geographically and stratified results of different, different folks around the community. So it's going to be a relatively large number. We actually received the updated draft of the survey yesterday, so we're digesting that right now. But it should go out sometime middle of the month, I believe. And they aren't expecting too long for us to receive the results from that. So it should be a fairly quick response, and then we'll start digesting the data. But it's going to be a fairly large amount of data that we expect to receive as part of that process. And they'll continue soliciting input until they have enough data for it to become statistically significant. Thanks.
All right. No more comments or questions. Thank you, Nathan. Let's move on to item 2A, action items. Motion to recommend adoption of tip amendment number 5 to the TPA's fiscal year 23-27 Transportation Improvement Program tip. And I'm not going to read what is tip about, because that will be what usually Andrew would say when he presents things like this.
Yes.
So Andrew.
All right, good morning, everyone. So this first item for you is an action item. This is regarding our currently adopted Transportation Improvement Program. This is an amendment number 5 to that. So we'll be doing this action item, and then the next action item deals with our upcoming tip, and that's 24 through 28. So for this first one, this is going to be just one project. It's on the Urban River Bridge project. It's a request from FDOT. And also online, we do have the consultant and the product manager who can be promoted if you have specific questions regarding the project. But I'll give a quick overview of it. So again, for these amendments, it's really only impacting the products that are listed in the amendment. So for this one, it's just one project. And this triggers an amendment because there's a large increase in the scope and the cost of that. And I'll go through that. So this is the US 1 bridge over the Urban River. And this is up in North Palm Beach, the city of North Palm Beach. Many of you might be more familiar with Frigates, right next to Frigates Bar and Grill. But this is adding $10.3 million in total cost to the project. And it is also moving construction from the current fiscal year, which is 2023 to 2024. And then on the screen, we have the phases broken out of what it currently is for those phases, and then what is up for the amendment in your approval today in the proposed. And so you can see the total going from 10.8 to 21 million. So roughly doubling in size of the costs there. And then in your backup, there is the letter of the request, and it gets into more detail regarding why this amendment was needed. And I'm going to have a few highlights for you. One second here. So going through the process, obviously there's been some increases in unit prices across the board. So that's led to some of the increase. But other ones include using some special materials in the design of the bridge that don't really have much of a historical price estimate in the FDOT system. And then more major requests deal with requests from the South Florida Water Management District. And they requested dredging of the C-17 canal to dramatically improve flood control. And so that also required additional riprap. So that's a major part of this cost increase. And then the other one is the Village of North Palm Beach requested FDOT to temporarily modify the signing and pavement markings for Anchorage Drive. And so that's going to be held into for during this project. So those are why you see the cost increases for those. That's really all I have for a summary. And
Thank you. Staff, do we have any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Then I will need a motion. After I get a motion, then we can open it for discussion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Natalie, second by Brian. Thank you. Now we can open it. Go ahead.
Question. I noticed that the right-of-way cost went from.
Could you please turn your microphone on? Thank
Okay.
you so much.
I noticed that the right-of-way cost went from 857,000 to 3.6 million. So it's like a 400% increase in right-of-way. I was just curious I understand the cost in increase in construction costs because of materials and other things. I'm not sure why the right of way cost went up so much.
Mhm. It had to do with the cross section of the canal, but if Aptot's on the line or Christine, you want to see if the product manager's on? Okay. We'll get them in here.
All right.
This is Bing Wang. I'm the project manager for this project. And right away cost is actually our real acquisition. We just finished, so that's the actual cost for the right away. So when you negotiate the right away, then you go to the court. So it's not completely depend on us. So we did the appraisal before. So then whatever estimate is based on the original appraisal price to do the right away cost. Then the actual cost for legal and actually right away cost, because we already have all the right away on hand. So that's the actual cost for the right away.
So to clarify, Ming, the right of way costs went up just from the sheer, cost of right of way, not from a increase to the scope that required more
No.
right of way acquisition?
No.
Just question the
Yeah, go ahead.
original appraisal being so low that now it's 400% more than what it was originally. Just curious.
Yeah.
Seemed like a huge increase.
Well, real estate, had been really turbulent through COVID, if you remember. So if they had the appraisal done before, I know that a lot of people were selling their properties last year and the year before. So real estate prices have changed drastically lately. Natalie?
I have a quick question and maybe Bing can shed some light or actually maybe Tom, because I know that North Palm Beach has been going through the US 1 corridor initiative and I have a question. I'm assuming that this project is related to the structural damage that occurred several years ago. And so it's a replacement and a complete refurbishment, right? That's question number
Correct.
one. And then second question is DOT considering mobility improvements as part of the refurbishment of Earman, and does it tie into the US 1 corridor?
Yes, actually, based on the village of town of North Palm Beach requirement, and we did a very wide typical section for share use pass because they like to have because they said like people not actually want the bicycle lane on the travel lane side. So it's very wide share use pass based on their request. So I think if I remember correctly, it's 11 feet. So they also have some planter and some other decorative chairs, other decorative nature on the bridge. So which is included in this new bridge.
Thank you. That all sounds very positive.
Thank you. Jason?
Just to follow up on Alex's question, I also noticed there's a 3.5 million on RRU costs that was zero in the prior estimate. I'm just curious, what's that for?
Could you bring up the slide? What is RRU, please? Could you bring up the slide you show
Yep,
what's the
we're getting
RRU?
there. So he's referring to the RRU, which the current, there is no current cost for that, and then it adds that phase of the RRU.
What is exactly RRU for? So please, somebody tell me.
Bing, this is Christine. That is for for railroad and utilities, any utility needs.
Okay,
project.
the RRU cost, then, if you look at the Yemen River Bridge, currently we have a transmission line on the right side of the bridge. So originally they asked the transmission line said they can de-energize, then do then we do the construction. Everybody know every time de-energize is not like a very, if they said they would de-energize at 8 o'clock, you maybe didn't get de-energized at 8 o'clock. And so we coordinate with construction. This will significantly increase the construction time and disturb the community. So by the end, the decision is we relocate the 4 poles of the transmission line to the west side. So before that phase construction start. So this will significantly reduce the construction time. Otherwise, when we install the piers, do the west side bridge construction will depend on the de-energize. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Jason, you are good? Okay. Thank you. With this, seeing no more comments or questions, we move on to voting on the motion. Or in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 2B, motion to recommend adoption of draft fiscal year 2024 to 2028 Transportation Improvement Program TIP. I'm not gonna read through what TIP is, but this is the final review of the TIP for adoption by the TPA Governing Board on June 15th, 2023. Andrew, please go ahead and present.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this is very similar to the presentation you saw last time. It's shortened up. So we're only including a few slides in this version. Went in more detail last time. The backup does include, and then the online version includes a little bit more details. We finished our appendices, added a few more details to projects throughout. You'll see that mostly for a lot of the Palm Trend ones we fixed up. And then we included a little bit more of any of the comments we received from you all and the other committees. So what is a Transportation Improvement Program? Again, this is our list of projects by phase in funding, federal and state funds over the next 5 years. We also try to include local projects when we get those in for informational purposes. This one's going to be covering 2024 to 2028 fiscal years. And right now we're operating under 23 through 27. And so getting to this point in the process of the adoption of the TIP, it really starts a year back or more with product development. Those come out of the LRTP. They come out of our programs, state road modifications, local initiatives, and transportation alternatives. And then there's also other products that come from FDOT and the locals when they submit. So with those, we draft our list of priority products, which is those key ones for major products at the TPA, including state roads, local initiatives, and transportation alternatives. And then with that list, FDOT gets new revenue estimates. They have new cost estimates, and then they build their work program. That work program is seen as the draft tentative work program later in the year. And then we provide our responses to that, and then it makes minor adjustments to that work program. And then you see a final version of the work program, which we build a TIP off of. And so we presented that last month, and this is for final adoption this month. Funding summary. Fort Palm Beach County, $3.1 billion in federal state funds in our county. You'll see it broken down by the sections in the TIP in this graphic. You'll see an overwhelming amount in the strategic intermodal system capacity. And I'll pay attention a little bit more to the turnpike there. It's a large portion of that. A lot of major investments in the turnpike and construction over the next 5 years. Provided that graphic last time. But that's a big portion of that. Still a lot of work being done on the I-95 as well with widenings and interchanges. So still a large amount of federal and state dollars towards that. Then you see our other 3 priority programs: state road modifications, local initiatives, and transportation alternatives. And then the other products in the TIP. For you all, the update that you probably didn't see last time around is we got all the Palm Trend numbers in there. So the O&M transit is an updated number. And you can see a lot more local investment when it comes to maintaining the system, so the roadways and the transit. And so this was a discussion at our last TAC meeting about the summary of the LRTP and implementation of that. We're still working through as staff how to best show this for you moving forward. We did update the table that was provided in the tip. So what you see in that table is the strategic intermodal system. So those are those main FDOT projects that are listed in the LRTP, the major priority projects that are going to be line items in the LRTP. And then there's small lump sum line items for the programs of state roads, local initiatives, and transportation alternatives. So those are annual submittals. And so the other columns in there, we have how many are listed in the 2045 LRTP, how many are underway or complete, which have a cost, a construction phase in the tip, which ones have some sort of funding in the tip, maybe it's design or right away, but are not fully showing construction, and then which ones do not have any funds yet committed. And so moving down the list, 45 line items for the SIS, 17 for major projects, and then the prioritized products. These are ones since the adoption of 2045 LRTP. So 15 for the state road modifications, 19 for local initiatives, and then 15 transportation alternatives projects. And you can see the status of those. So this is one we showed last time, but just a summary of the TPA priorities and how it's looking in a tip and sort of where that money is going towards. $235 million in this upcoming tip. Some of those major projects, State Road 7, Atlantic Ave, our roadway capacity, $103 million towards that. Those do include pedestrian bike facilities as well. Then we have a variety of our programs go towards standalone pedestrian bike facilities, so $84 million. And then we have rolling stock, lighting products, electric buses, shelters. And then again, these highlights for the major priority programs. State road modifications, we talked about State Road 7 showing up in 2028, and then the other phase showing up, the other portion of that project outside the tip. Atlantic Avenue being on schedule for State Road 7 Alliance, and then the other section coming into the work program and into the tip. One portion scheduled for 27, that's Lions Road to Turnpike, and then construction still outside the work program for the eastern section, Turnpike to Jog. There's the Okeechobee Boulevard feasibility study when it comes to the results of our enhanced transit corridor analysis, and FDOT will be doing that feasibility study in fiscal year 25. And then the US 27 connector still has a project development study in there for 27. Local initiatives, we have those upcoming projects in 2024, 3 of those in West Palm, Delray, and there's a Palm Tran electric buses. And then those projects that are prioritized on the local initiatives list that we're still having at the top of the priority list, this upcoming list of priority projects. And so there are 6 of those projects that are not yet programmed, but are on the top of that local initiatives list for prioritization. And you'll be seeing that list of priority projects next month in July. Transportation alternatives, 4 upcoming in 2024, and then 4 just added this last round in fiscal year 2026 for construction. And then that's really the summary we have for you. Again, this is going to be open until the governing board meeting next Thursday. And then throughout the year, if you have your capital improvement programs approved and you'd like to send us the product list, we'll be glad to put them in as reference and map them for you. So there's more website resources on the website, the full documents there, the map, and then the appendices has more detailed documents that we are updating frequently now to all the way till we get to the board meeting. That's all I have for you.
Thank you. Staff, do we have any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Now for us, go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. And the local initiatives program, and I apologize if this has been addressed earlier, but I'm pretending to be Kim Delaney today, so I don't get to come to these all the time. Thanks. Yeah, get my hair done. The local initiatives program, there's a item 15-2 West Palm Beach purchasing 7 vehicles to support a new north-south trolley service. And I don't know if either of the folks from West Palm can answer this, but Are these intended to be trolleys like you used to use downtown up till last week, or vans, or what is the intent there? Because you've totally redone the system downtown.
Go ahead,
Um,
Jessica.
I need to do this. Sorry, I don't know the
Go ahead,
rules.
go ahead.
Okay.
You are recognized.
We're going to be modifying our request, and we will be looking to invest in a different type of vehicle. We don't know what that vehicle looks like yet. And we will determine that through our year and a half pilot that we started last week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Jamie?
Yeah, so I guess on the same note, the local initiatives 15-3. I guess this is more for Yash. For the 30 transit shelters, do you guys know the actual location of those yet?
We do not yet.
Okay. Is there any kind of priority, or
They're based on ridership.
do you know when you will know that?
In
I'm
the
asking
next
for a
6
reason,
months.
obviously.
I mean, your area is a high ridership area.
Yeah.
So I can at least tell you that you will receive some because of that, because Lake Worth Road Route 62 is one of the highest ridership routes that we have.
Okay, I was just following up. Thank you.
Thank you. Vicky?
Just a follow-up question for Jessica. Are the trolleys still running now, or because on the webs, we received something and it looked like they weren't on the street and the new circuits were, but
I could
'cause
give you-
use them.
I could give you a whole presentation, and we could take the next hour talking about what the program is. But no, the actual trolleys are not running. They are being stored, and we will be selling those. What you will see right now as our fixed route service is bright blue vans. That's in the program's called Ride WPB. And then there's a second phase of the program where we will be launching on-demand service as well. But I can share some information with you. I'll send it to you by email.
Seems there is a lot of interest on this topic, so maybe we need to have West Palm come back and give us a formal presentation on their plans. Thank you.
I'm happy to do that.
Very
Because
good.
I could use everyone's help in helping to promote the program, because we are getting a lot of questions.
Yeah, it's a
And
great
we
idea.
do want it to be a successful program so we can move people around the city.
Very good. Let's consider that. Thank you. Roberto?
Thank you, Chair. Just a question for staff. You mentioned that you can receive information and approve capital projects to be added to the map. Is there a format requirement on how you should receive that information?
We have a format, but because we don't always get all the products in, and if it's a lot of work for you all, you can send it in any format you want. But we can send you a template. And so what we really need is, just like you would see in the tip, a description, and then the phases, and then the funding source for those phases.
And GIS?
We'll map it for you if you don't have it, but if you have it, that'd be great. But really, since we don't get them all submitted, our staff takes the time to try to get that done. So, if it's a PDF of your approved plan and you can point us to the page to add, we don't mind answering it.
Great, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. CJ?
Thank you. I have a questions on the state road modification 21-6. The alternate intersection design PD&E study for Indian Town and Indian Town Road and Central Boulevard. I'm not sure the FDOT's project manager is present here, but could any staff who know the status of that provides an update?
I'll start and we can have Christine to answer more probably specifically for that. So CJ is referring to one of the products on our state road modifications list, set 21-6 Indian Town Road at Central Boulevard, a PD&E study. This one was added as it indicates in 2021. it is on a list of a lot of other priorities that have a lot of needs. And so when we talk about this list of priority projects next month, that's a lot of discussion we can have there too about a lot of these needs and how much can really be fulfilled as we head into the next work program, the next tip. So it's one of those ones that, you know, has been in the queue there, just hasn't had the funding source dedicated towards it yet. So I don't know, Christine, if you have anything to add about that, and then what we're doing about Central Boulevard and Indiantown.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So this project was developed internally with our District 4 concept development team. Looked at congestion and realized that there was a need there. But to Andrew's part, we'll look to see for funding availability and what the first phase can be funded. Typically, the first phase is funded in the new 5th year. For this cycle that's coming up, the new 5th year would be FY29. And we'll look to see what our state funding availability is and if we can fund the first phase, which would be pre-work to a PD&E.
Yes, thank you. But it says the recommended alternative to be endorsed by TPA. Is any recommendations or presentations being made to the tech members or the body of the council, not the government board to see if the alternative is actually feasible and to be endorsed by TPA before the funding is committed?
Not at this time. So right now, it hasn't gone through the PD&E phase. So in the PD&E phase, all the alternatives will be looked at and then presented as we move through that. Right now, it was just some conceptual ideas, realizing that there was an issue. I do believe, and I'd have to double check with our concept development team, I do believe they reached out to the town and to the county just to share some information and to get feedback on, you know, does the town or the county have any projects planned along that area as well? But there's been no official alternatives. That'll happen during PD&E.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? All right, I'm looking for a motion to approve, and then after that, we can open it again for discussions. Motion,
Move to approve.
Vicky,
Second.
seconded by Tiash. Thank you. Now we open it again for discussion. Any discussions? Alex?
Again, as mentioned in previous meetings, this TIP includes the State Road 7 extension and widening project, which the city of West Palm Beach opposes because it impacts on the city's water catchment area and our water supply. So I cannot support the TIP as presented.
Thank you, Alex. CJ, you still want to speak or the call is up? All right. Okay, Natalie, go ahead.
I have a question and a comment. I guess my question is for DOT. From what I understand of the TIP process, this is a budgeting tool in which all the various projects, you know, big and small, are allocated with the funds. And of course, it changes as costs increase and we have to do amendments. My question to DOT is kind of related to some of the material that Andrew presented, where you can see the proportion of monies clearly spent on SIS and other major projects. And you have, you know, a pretty negligible amount that is being spent in the grand scheme of things for, you know, TA and LI and mobility improvements. Is there some type of minimum percentage or threshold that, you know, no matter what, in terms of the costs increasing or some of these big projects escalating, is there always a minimum percentage established for mobility improvements for TA and LI? Because it relates to obviously a kind of a concern that I've talked about before, and I think others have too, on some of these LI projects being compromised and these TI projects being compromised, and that's why they've been pushed out. So, you know, to me, this is not a one and done. This is a growing trend as costs like State Road 7 and others escalate. And it seems to me that there's always going to be an ongoing issue of the funding source for the little guys. And so I just want to know what the process is for DOT in maintaining thresholds to ensure that we have a steady stream of funding for mobility and mobility improvement.
Sure, I'm happy to start the response, but Andrew, you may want to chime in as well. So for the TA program, the DOT receives TA funding that is allocated per the county. So each area receives a certain percentage of the TA funding. That funding is slightly adjusted. Once we get the allocations, we see what that amount is, but that is allocated typically by population. And for the local initiative projects, those are projects that are funded through the federal allocations that are at the discretion of the TPA. And those are also formula funds. So that's based on population. So we have a good idea of ballpark what it is. And then once we get our allocations around the September timeframe, we get the exact amount. And then, obviously you all prioritize your projects and the DOT programs what we can with cost increases and knowing where, what phases need to come next. Is the project ready to receive funds in the year that the money is available? And that's all part of balancing that happens every year.
Thanks. That's really helpful. So in other words, there is always a funding source that's based on population that is specifically intended for TA and LI that does come through the system every year.
We have the TA process has been strictly dedicated. Those TA funds, those surface transportation alternative set aside funds have been strictly dedicated towards the TA program. The SU funds, which are the ones used for local initiatives, that's where we try to spend that funding as much as we can towards local initiatives. But these discussions of larger scale projects that are on our state roads list that come up in the cost increase or the products move on entire years, that's where FDOT's really struggling to fill that hole with state funds, right? So we would typically want to see a State Road 7 or an Atlantic Avenue or anything else in that list for state roads, all funded with state funds. And we're not seeing that. There's just not enough money, state funds to fully fund our priorities and then the state's priorities as well towards the state system. So that's where we have to fill that gap. And it's been filled with SU funds, the local initiatives funds.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to go on record that, the LI projects that so many of us benefit from and the TA are a wonderful addition to our community. They improve safety and enhance our corridors. And I just would, really love to see this board and our governing board as they continue to, hold these funds true and to ensure that they don't get diminished from some of these larger state facilities that we always try to prioritize. So that's my comment.
Mm-hmm. And I have one more thing for full transparency on that. We're talking about this in the next few months. And as you mentioned, you're right, it's going to be a reoccurring trend, right? With this discussion, because we still have some major phases that you see in those priority projects, fully funded State Road 7 as a priority and fully funded Atlantic. And there's other ones down the list of signal projects and a few other US 1 projects on the state road list that we're prioritizing that at the same time that we have local initiatives projects too. So there's a lot on the list that needs to be funded, and there's only that limited amount of both state funds, which we don't always know how much that's going to be. We do know how much SU local initiatives funds. We know how much SU funds we have every year, but how much more we have to fill a gap. It's really until they start getting into the work program and rebalancing, and they see the projections, we don't really have a good, clear picture of it.
If I could add.
Sure.
We work really hard to get the most out of the monies that we can. We do that when we balance. We, can shift funds around where possible. We really try to, again, get the most out of the funding that we can. We do meet regularly with the TPA staff. We meet weekly with them. We talk about priorities. When we get into the balancing, we'll be sharing information with the staff prior to the publishing of the draft tentative. So, we understand your priorities. So we really try hard to, get the most out of the money that we can.
Thank you. I see we have one public comment. Go
Yes,
ahead,
we do
Melissa.
have one person online, I believe, from Palm Beach County.
Yeah.
Kashid Mahyuddin with Palm Beach County Planning Division. My question is that I didn't hear any discussion. Yes, I love the Earman bridge improvements, but is there any process for funding a local desires? Do they have to come through transportation alternative or local initiative funding to accommodate that? And what is the impact of that extra funding that is now required for Earman on rest of the projects? For example, is it causing State Road 7 project to be delayed? Those discussions I didn't hear. So can somebody please tell us? Thank you.
Yeah, I can answer. Go ahead. So I'd have to look at the funding sources specifically for the bridge project on Earman, but that one typically is a needs-based program. So the money you saw in there, I believe, was a lot of federal bridge funds dedicated towards that. So doesn't really eat into something like a State Road 7. If you see something like a district dedicated revenue source on the project, which I think there's a little bit on there, theoretically something like that could be spent on another priority. But most of those bridge projects are mostly bridge replacement funds specifically, or meeting the other needs, minimum needs that the FDOT has for funding of operations and maintenance. And then if you're talking about how do you submit other types of bridge projects for needs, you can go through the local initiatives program. We've had the county submit to us in the past and had a few bridge replacements through that on local roadways. But there's also additional discretionary programs for bridges, both on the national highway system and then off the national highway system.
Thank you.
Vicky? Just a point of curiosity, Andrew, you said you like to fund state roads with state money, but when that's not possible, you have federal funds. So I'm curious, does that push the project to meet federal standards, or the state and federal pretty well the same, pretty much the same at this point anyway?
Christine might have some more information about how you determine. I'm assuming most of them are federalized projects that.
Right, so any project that is done on the state highway system that the DOT is responsible for, whether there is state or federal funds on the project, we always procure our contractors, procure our consultants per the federal standards. So if we need to put federal money on it, we're already in alignment with the federal requirements.
Yeah, I'm thinking more in terms of, maybe materials or width or that kind of thing that may be required for a federal project that for a state project might not be as stringent or as extreme, and if that adds cost to the project.
So any projects that are on our system, that are on the state highway system, they'll be designed per our design manual as opposed to the Green Book. So the Green Book might have some different criteria for the roadway widths, but we design per our design manual. Any off-system projects that might be delivered by the DOT, we would design per the Green Book or per the locals requirements. But all of our on-system projects are per our design manual.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question myself. Thank you for bringing up the issue with the traffic signal upgrades that the county and Boca have applied for, and they keep on being shoved in terms of construction funding. The question is, typically when we apply for grants like in the LI and or TA, we do have, if the project is selected, it's already programmed right away within 5 or 3 years. It seems like it's a different game plan for the state system that we applied for. So this applications were selected or the projects were selected, but we have not seen them programmed in 5 years. And now it has been 3 years since we have applied and they were selected, and we still don't see them being programmed for construction within the 5-year tip. So what's the difference here? And it seems like there are no certain amount of funds allocated for that program, like similar to the LI and TA. Can you shed some light on this and explain it?
Sure, sure. So for these programs, we know specifically how much federal funds through formal funds we're getting for surface transportation block grant, SU funds. That's the ones that try to use towards local initiatives. We know how much we're getting for transportation alternatives. And then we know how much we're getting specifically for carbon reduction, the other new program. Those are ones that are pretty specific numbers. The other one, the state funds, we don't, it's more of a pot that, there's the state funds that we have to spend, but it goes towards a variety of priorities. Those priorities include, as we mentioned, state priorities. Palm Tran has revenue from that source for operations. We use it for state road modification. So it's really a pot trying to, a lot of priorities going towards that pot. In our long range transportation plan for 2045, those original forecasts of how much money we could spend towards state roads was really higher than what we are seeing right now for that. And so that's one part of it, is the revenue we're receiving is probably a little bit less than what is less than what we originally forecast in the LRTP from the state. And then obviously there's a lot of cost increases. So there's just not enough money overall to fund all those priorities.
Yeah, but
So it's just, we don't know specifically, we can't tell you how much state funds will go towards TPA priorities.
I see. All right, I think we have one more big item that we'll need to go to. So let's, if,
We do have
sorry,
just one more
public comment, go ahead.
comment online.
Yeah, go ahead. Who's that? What's the name of the person?
It was the same person from before.
Khurshid?
Yes.
Khurshid, you are recognized.
No, I don't have any comment on this, sorry.
Okay.
Oh, I need to, sorry.
So we are good. All right, I don't see any cards up here, so let's go ahead and vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
Aye.
say nay.
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 Alex and Jessica. All right, motion carries with, I don't know what are the numbers, Melissa, you'll figure them out. 2 opposed only. Thank you. We move on. Now we go to the big item, the 3A, it's informational item. It's the 2050 long range transportation plan goals and objectives. It's an interesting topic and important topic, and I think Nathan will be presenting. Go ahead, Nathan.
Yes, thank you. So I'll take a moment while they get the presentation pulled up. Very exciting conversation that we've heard this morning. So happy to come and present to you today. So Nathan George, I'm back to talk to you about the LRTP. Today, we're here to talk about the goals and objectives. This is an item that we're bringing to you as an informational item. We want to make it clear that we're working on a working document. We're going to have opportunities to continue to work through this document. So we're bringing this to the 3 committees this month. We'll see how the feedback goes from those 3 conversations today and tomorrow, and see where we go next. But definitely want to highlight for you the process that we're taking to develop goals and objectives for the 2050 plan. Throughout the conversation today, we've kind of danced around some of the issues of how we establish our priorities. Here we are, spring 2023. So that's where we are in terms of our process. This is going to be a really high-level presentation. We're not going to go through the document that was shared with you before the meeting. We're just going to talk about some of the higher-level considerations. So first, why are we talking about goals and objectives? Because we have to, we're required to. So the federal government included in the transportation bill, this performance-based planning requirement. So we need to establish our goals and objectives and our measures. It's just the part of the process for how we're going to measure our projects and figure out what we're going to establish as our regional priorities. This also is an opportunity for us to establish our consistency with federal planning factors and with the Florida Transportation Plan. So it's critical for us to show that continuity between our local plan and those larger federal state priorities. TPA's goals, I highlighted this for you when we kicked off the process. This is not something that's new. The 2045 plan included these goals. It is actually the words in our vision statement, a safe, efficient, connected multimodal transportation system. So we have 5 goals: safe, efficient, connected, multimodal, and resilient. Want to highlight for you, we have changed that last goal to resilient. It used to be more of a maintenance term. So we're trying to frame that goal in terms of how do we make these investments wise and ensure that they are hardening to climate change and things like that. So we can get into more discussion about that as we go through the process. The key for what we want to talk about today is just this goals and objectives hierarchy. One of the big challenges when you talk about goals and objectives is understanding what these things actually mean. So I wanted to give everybody a framework that we can measure as we're talking through goals and objectives, what that actually means. So the 4 items here we have are a goal. That's our desired outcome or what we're trying to accomplish. The objective is what are we doing to help us get closer to that goal? And then we have these tactics that fall under there called strategies. You may hear folks use the term tactic or strategy. That's how we are actually doing whatever we say we're doing. And then our measures, the performance measures and targets, that's the final part of the puzzle. So how are we going to track our progress in achieving our goals? So to give you an example, as you're looking at this document for how we will take that framework and apply it, it's what is our goal? Our goal is to have a multimodal system. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to develop a system that improves regional accessibility. I'm going to paraphrase and not read through the whole slide. So what are we doing about it? We're developing this system that improves regional accessibility. How do we do that? We're going to identify and prioritize projects that increase commuter mode split. That's second bullet. So it's basically that framework allows us to test each of these, the language that we put forward to you at a staff level to make sure that we're identifying actionable goals and objectives. And then those will carry forward to how we measure the projects that come through this process. We're here today to seek your feedback. I have a picture of Stuart who's in the audience. He is here to listen, and certainly as you have questions, he'll jump in and help me answer those today. But we want to hear your feedback on the draft goals and objectives that were shared in the memo that's in the backup. But I also want to reinforce that this is not a conversation that ends today. So we're here to talk about the goals and objectives. We certainly could be here all day if we wanted to talk about goals and objectives all day. But I am available, so please don't think that if you don't speak up today that your voice or opinion will not be heard. My contact information is there, Nathan George, my email and phone number. So feel free to reach out to me. We can set a time to meet and talk through this document. You can share your comments. It's not something that needs to be shared in a public forum. We can certainly synthesize that information and share it back out with our committees and board as that's appropriate. We do also want to highlight for everybody that we have a save the date. There will be a performance measures and targets workshop. This was an area of emphasis as we went through the target setting exercise. We're required to adopt the federal performance measure targets. And so there was a lot of interest in discussing and getting into the weeds really about our performance measures and targets. So we're going to have a workshop August 17th. It's scheduled from 9 to 11. So this is a save the date. We'll get more details out to you. We'll include as part of that process, additional discussion about goals, objectives, performance measures, and targets for the LRTP. So wanted to highlight that opportunity for you as well. That concludes my presentation for today. I do want to also highlight one thing that I failed to mention at the beginning, Vision 2050 logo in the bottom corner. We've got our branding there. So that's something that we're starting to get our branding. I mentioned that we'll be putting out the survey. So we're working on that as well. And there will be the upcoming call for projects. So there's a lot going on the LRTP behind the scenes, and you'll start to hear more details about that in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. I see that we have a public comment. Go ahead, Melissa.
Yes, we do. Khurshid he has his hand raised online.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yes, Kashid again. On page 40, objective E as in Edward 1. May I suggest instead of saying repurpose existing road space for high capacity use, it should say repurpose existing road space for higher mobility. in that way, for example, if everybody is riding electric bikes on Flagler in downtown West Palm, yeah, they can repurpose one lane and put, if more people and goods are moving on a different mode, you can accommodate that mode because it just gives higher mobility. So that should be just general, probably should use higher mobility. Capacity, the way it is written, higher capacity, capacity could be sometimes, yeah, in Flagler, you may have more capacity of what, of cars, but that doesn't move more people. Like on Clematis, there are probably more people walking and biking. So if they want to repurpose a lane over there to account for more people moving, then they should be able to repurpose the lane. So that's why I would suggest to change the wording to say higher mobility, period. Thank you. That's my comment.
Thank you. I like that comment. I want to hear from Nathan and Stuart if they have any comment on that comment.
I'll just say that the goal of the language that we put forward here is that it should be holistic and easy to recognize the intent. So, you know, that's certainly an appreciated comment.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
have
the
taken
intention of his comment, is to make it more holistic and more flexible.
Yeah.
Because capacity, when you talk about capacity, some could argue that maybe number of buses but those buses could be running empty, but still you are counting them as full. So, but mobility can kind of universal and holistic, meaning moving people and allowing them to get to their destinations in time and or faster.
Yeah, I'll say we'll take all of this feedback and, you know, and consider it. Or
Yeah,
take it under
I
due
mean, the intention
consideration.
and the
I
goal
think-
is the same. Yeah.
I think if any language that we use would potentially be ambiguous and not clear, that's where we'll certainly want to have additional conversations to try and eliminate ambiguity. And I'll invite Stuart to offer his thoughts.
Stuart?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the TAC. I certainly appreciate Mr. Mahuddin's comment, and I like that it seems to get at perhaps a modal hierarchy on certain streets by using the word mobility, or in particular, higher mobility. So I echo Nathan's comments that I appreciate that comment, and that's something that we'll definitely look to incorporate, as well as I think it's consistent with the idea of the LRTP in being multimodal, but also looking at potentially a modal hierarchy on different streets, understanding that different streets and roadways have different purposes and may have different modal priorities.
Excellent. Thank you. Nathan, do you have anything to say, or shall I move on?
I was just going to say that just since Stuart didn't give the presentation, I did want to offer that we offered staff recommendations to our consultant team, Kimley Horn, and they provided really excellent recommendations in terms of how to achieve alignment with state goals. So I just want to give kudos to the team. They did a really excellent job of helping us massage this before it came to you. So definitely appreciate the collaboration we're having with the team and wanted to acknowledge their contributions.
Yeah, I think there's more to discuss about. I remember reading through the summaries that you provided. There are talks about EVs and other modes of transportation, but they lumped EVs with, I thought, bicycles and scooters and others, which to me, these are two different breeds in one of the strategies I believe I read. But yeah, connected vehicles and other emerging technologies that are influencing our transportation system big time. I see a lot of invasion by electric bicycles. That is something new that it seems like more people are utilizing as a mode of transportation. So there are a lot of things to consider, and these are great ideas. With this, I thought I saw, okay, Jessica, go ahead.
Obviously, this is my first day here. And I just have a question. How were the goals and objectives developed? Who was part of that?
So right now, these are staff level recommendations that have been, like I said, passed along to the consultant team, and we've worked with the consultant team to massage those initial recommendations. So that's where they arrive from. Largely, it started with a scan of the 2045 goals and objectives, which were primarily a goal and then like a summary statement, more or less a philosophy statement, if you will, that's in the 2045 plan. Tried to carry forward as much from that plan as possible and then build on those recommendations to strengthen, to provide stronger language effectively about how we can achieve the goals. That's why I presented a framework to help us ensure that as we're saying something, it's actionable. It's not just sort of words that don't really have any ability to measure their accomplishment or achievement. So that was really, I would say, the biggest focus of this initial effort. And now we're here to talk, to receive input from all the committees, from your perspectives, and that will give us a lot more eyes on these goals and objectives, and we'll continue to massage this language as we
That
work
makes
towards the
sense.
final plan.
And I just wanted to echo what was stated earlier. There's some ambiguous language there, and we'll provide some written comments back to you.
That's appreciated. I'd
Thank
say
you.
anything that's ambiguous, we just want to make sure it's encompassing or broad. But
Thanks.
appreciate your feedback.
Great, thank you. Alex?
Yeah, just kind of following up on some of the comments that were brought up. I noticed that the strategies that are included here are particularly short. There's like no more than one sentence, sometimes a very short sentence, and that's not necessarily bad, but sometimes I think there's not enough clarity as to what that strategy entails, because it is excessively short and lacking in details. I did have actually the one that Khursheed brought up. I had also a comment on that. I didn't understand. It could be interpreted in many ways, repurposing existing road space. So going back to some of the comments, I think maybe some of the strategies may need to be explained a little bit more. One that I just for brief comment, objective E2, right under efficient, identify strategies to improve capacity of bottlenecks in the transportation system. My first thought is like, okay, are we expanding bottlenecks? I mean, I know that's not what the goal is. If we're improving capacity of bottlenecks, I mean, we want to reduce. I know what we're saying is we want to reduce bottlenecks, but by saying improving capacity of bottlenecks, some people could interpret it, oh, we want to make bottlenecks larger. Just the wording, again, I understand that's not the intent, but the wording on some of the strategies maybe could be adjusted or expanded to make it more clear.
Yeah, we welcome your editorial review. I will say to your comment about the length of strategies, they're in reviewing a lot of publications, like how to do the best at developing goals, objectives, and strategies. One of the areas that was a big focus is having too much language, where folks were having, it was almost like you would have two ideas that were put together with an and so that's part of why you see things very simplistic.
I completely agree. Just putting words just for the sake of putting words is not advisable. At the same time, sometimes some of these strategies do need a little bit more clarity or need to be expanded a little bit more in order to make sure that everybody understands what it is that we're trying to do here.
Yeah, and those comments are welcome. Thank you.
Very good, excellent. CJ?
Thank you. I've not been following up with the discussion for a while, so I'm not sure if this has been come up and discussed before. But on page 48, there's a target for PM1 through 3, and as I see here, the PM1, since we have a Vision Zero plan, so although the crashes is randomly occur event, and then it's not 100% preventable, but we still set 0 as the target. However, if you see the PM2, we have 40% on the pavement conditions on it is on the non-interstate national highway system, maintaining the 40%. And then on PM3, we now have try to maintaining 50% on the reliable PMT. Seems like if we set, yeah, I want to know what is the good rationale behind those low target, low standard. And if we maybe it's a part of reflections of the reality check. But if we set such a low target, we are sort of put ourselves into a position that we are actually maintaining an unreliable system. The target is no longer a target.
If I'm good to respond. So what CJ is referring to is a portion of this document that is more or less documentation for purposes of the LRTP. It's, the background information and not related to the goals and objectives. That's exactly what you're referring to is why we're having the workshop on the 17th of August to discuss setting of targets and the performance measures and alignment with federal performance measures specifically. So that's an item that I'd encourage you to participate in that meeting because that's where we'll have federal highways and FDOT will be there to talk about those issues specifically. It's not something that I can speak to on behalf of this item.
All right, thank you, Nathan. So what is the deadline for feedback from members and the public? Is it the August 17th deadline, or you'd like to hear back from us with our thoughts earlier?
I will say from my perspective, we will be receptive to feedback until this document is adopted in the fall of next year. So there is not a deadline. We will be, establishing what's effectively a documented version of our goals and objectives at some point in the near future. It's going to really depend on the outcome of these conversations and what we hear back from anybody who reaches out to staff to discuss your input. But there's not a set deadline. This is, something that we can continue to incorporate input as we work through the process until we adopt that final document next year. So, a hard deadline is going to be sometime next spring when we start establishing what that document looks like. But for right now, I'd just encourage folks to not delay. Make sure you take the time to review this document and contact us to provide your input so we can incorporate your feedback.
Very good. Thank you. Stuart, do you have anything to say?
Just to add to what Nathan was saying, any feedback that you may have on the initial documentation, the informational item in your agenda packet, if you do have any initial feedback on that could be provided before the end of July, then that could be taken into account for the August workshop. And Nathan, sorry for making up a date on the fly. I know we didn't talk about that, but just setting sort of a more maybe sooner target, we would be able to take into account information that you may provide by the end of July for the August 17th workshop.
Yeah, I think that's great feedback. And, the later in the process we hear from anybody, the less likely it is that we can respond and incorporate input because, this is a group setting. We're working on effectively a group project. So the later we receive feedback, we'll need to make sure that everybody's in agreement. So the earlier we can get folks input is.
That's what I thought. As you go on with the process, things shape up, and it will be hard to go back, after there has been some kind of focus or consent on certain strategies and or goals that you take them back and way out of the stream of the thoughts that have been already shaped and or formulated.
Exactly.
So
We may hear or, we may learn something through the process as we go through scenario development, excuse me, through the scenario development process. We may see that something is missing in here. So that's, that's where we'll bring back to our committees and board. If we see anything that, we may have missed in the initial drafting of goals and objectives that is, revealed by reviewing projects or going through scenario development. I'm not expecting we'll see much of that, but just want to acknowledge that, as we see those opportunities, we'll make sure to incorporate changes as we work through the process.
Very good. Do we have any more? CJ, are done or? Okay. Alex? You are done? All right, so we are all done. I think this is an informational item, so we do not have any votes or anything.
Thank you.
And we don't have any public comments anymore, so we move on to, thank you for the presentation, for answering those questions. Move on to the last item, administrative items. This is item 4A through 4D are informational only. There will be no staff presentations unless requested by any committee members. Any requests? Seeing none, all right, staff, are there any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, guys. We done it. Our next TAC meeting? No, I mean, I think this is a typo. Our next TAC meeting will be scheduled on July 5th, 2023. At this time, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.